So you're out during the night shooting nightscapes and you want to change your camera settings but match the exposure. If you need to use your phone and use a calculator to do that, you're doing things slowly basically and you're wasting time. Because it's actually really easy to calculate the exposure and the stops of light and everything in your head quickly without having to turn on lights and everything or having to calculate in an app and so on. So in this video, I will show you exactly how that works and how to do it yourself. I will basically give you the theory and then a few examples you can use. I'm just back from my Tenerife and La Palma workshop, and one of the attendees there really liked how I could calculate the settings quickly for him to use for the sky or the foreground while shooting, and he appreciated me teaching him how to calculate them himself, and he gave me the idea of creating a video about that because many people will benefit. So here I am. Basically, it's this table that is on screen now. It's the stops of light theory. Basically, you have heard the exposure triangle before. I don't like that idea of the triangle. I prefer the stops of light. Basically, idea which is your light is in stops and you usually go by a third of a stop, the minimum change you can do. So basically, if you are shooting an image at exactly the histogram and the brightness you want, and you want to change shutter speed, for example, because you are getting star trails, you can use this theory to change the shutter speed and the ISO at the same time to match exactly the same exposure without having to calculate stuff yourself. So take a screenshot of this or whatever. And first example, you are shooting the foreground. You are doing 4-minute exposures for the foreground at ISO 3200, and you are doing aperture, let's say f 5.6, and you decide to stand in the foreground yourself. So you can't stand there still for 4 minutes, you have to take it down. Let's say you have to take it down to 30 seconds. Let's use again the table, the theory. 2 minutes is one stop, so we have one stop of light. 1 minute is another stop, so we have 2 stops of light. And then the 30 seconds, so halve it again, it's another stop. That's how shutter speed works. Every time you double it or halve it is one stop of light. So we're going down by 3 stops. Now, increase the ISO to match it. 6,400, 12,800, that's 2 stops. And then you might say, wait, that's enough. I don't want to go more than that, or my camera can't go more than that. We have to play with the aperture. It's f4, so how does that work? Again, take a look at the table. 1/3 of a stop, 3.5. Another third, 3. Another third, 2.8. And 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3 equals 1. So we got one more stop of light. And that way, by decreasing the exposure time by 3 stops to 30 seconds, increasing the ISO by 2 stops from 3,200 to doubling 6,400 and then 12,800, so that's 2 doubles, again 2 stops, and then opening the aperture to get another stop of light, so f4 to f2.8, we matched exactly the same exposure. I don't know, you can take the image, basically focus on where you're standing, take the image, and then do some Photoshop magic to add that area only from the high noise image to the rest of the lower noise, longer exposure image, and get everything sharp, but yourself included in the image too. So that's one example. Let's cover another one quickly. You are shooting the sky and you wanted to really stretch it and go with 4-minute exposures. ISO 400, for example, and aperture f2. You know that 4 minutes might be too much. You try it and you see, yeah, it's too much. I want to take it down a bit. You want to go one stop down, 2 minutes. Then you can either close the aperture or increase the ISO to get exactly the same image. You can also close the aperture a bit, f2, let's go to f2.2, that's 1/3 of a stop. So 400, you have to go 2/3. 800 is 3/3, so you have to find a setting before that, and it's 500 after 400, so that's 1/3, and then 640, that's 2/3. That again works exactly as before. You matched the exposure and you got the same settings. Now, something important I want to talk about. If you're at your camera's set shutter speed settings, which is up to 30 seconds for mine, you can move by 1/3 or 2/3 of a stop of exposure for the shutter speed too. So for mine it's 30 seconds, before that is 25, so 1/3, 20, 2/3, and then 15 for a whole stop, for example. But if you want to go up, you know that 30 seconds to 1 minute is one stop. In between, you don't have set settings. And here you can actually, for this case, I would use a calculator worst case because it's a lot to remember exactly the seconds and everything. But to be honest, I never do this. I never go by 1/3 or 2/3 of a stop for the past 30 seconds exposure. You're using bulk mode. You can do any seconds you want. You can do like a 39 seconds or 43 or whatever. And basically that's probably around where the 1/3 and 2/3 are. But for me, I don't like to shoot at non-minute multiples. So either 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, half a minute, and so on. That's my thing. So I will always do something like that. And last example, if I wanted to shoot 3-minute exposures, for example, I set it up 3 minutes, f2, ISO 400 again. But 3 minutes was too much and I wanted to go down. 2 minutes will be again too much. I will basically, let's imagine there is wind and I get a shaky camera and I want to go to 1 minute just to avoid that. By going to 1 minute, you go one stop to 90 seconds and then another something to 1 minute. And it's either closer to 1/3 of a stop or 2/3. The way to do that, the way to match the exposure, basically if I went one stop down, so let's say it was f2, I keep the f2 and I go to 800, the ISO. And then I have to go another one or two basically thirds of a stop. So I think 800, then it's 1000, I go to 1000. This time I either have to not use the same exact exposure or do the closest one as possible or change it to like a minute and something of an exposure time, which I don't really like to do. It's a bit weird for me. I like to do 1 minute or 2 or 3 again. I already mentioned this. So I will just go with the closest one. I don't remember which one of the two it is. I will add it on screen now to have the exact setting that is 1/3 of a stop and the exact setting that is 2/3 of a stop. And basically the closest one I can do to match the settings. But again, it won't be exactly the same, but it will give you the closest histogram or the closest exposure you can. Again, that's me. You might want to go directly to the 1/3 and 2/3 when doing bulk mode and basically shoot at, I don't know, 107 seconds or something. I don't know the settings again, I never use them. I might add a table with the settings above 30 seconds for you to be able to see them, or if your camera goes to 180 seconds, you might have everything there built in. But yeah, if you want to do that, go ahead. I don't like to do that, but it is doable and possible, basically. And that's it. That's how you do these camera setting changes during the night without having to turn on your phone or calculate stuff and take a lot of time, lose a lot of time, or ruin time lapses and images with the light. But that's not the only mistake you might be doing while shooting nightscapes. There are other 5 mistakes that I think most people do during nightscape photography. I made a whole video about that. Take a look. It's going to be a card up here.